Well, good morning, everybody. This is the news that we are waking up to for Wednesday, the 29th of January, day 1071 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. I'm Peter Alexievich, and last night was a bad night. I don't know what was going on here. They only sent 57 drones, but the Ukrainian armed forces took out 75% of them. Hits got through in Mykolaiv, Odessa, Kyiv, Sumy. They sent an Iskander missile too, and that killed 2 people in Mykolaiv. The number of wounded is over a dozen and likely will rise as the day goes on, as the death toll may as well. So it was a bad night last night, and the insanity continues. Now, how come they sent only one Iskander missile? You know, there have to be either manpower or equipment shortages. You don't send 100 drones a night and then send 57. Russia's under pressure, and now is not the time to turn that pressure down. And the Ukrainians are doing a hell of a job. We'll talk about that in 1 second. But really the first big story, I think, today is Oscar Jenkins. Oscar Jenkins was the Australian volunteer with the Ukrainian Armed Forces. He was attached to the 402nd Separate Rifle Battalion of Ukraine's 66th Separate Mechanized Brigade. He disappeared in combat operations around Mykolaiv in the Luhansk Oblast, right around December 16th, I think, December 16th. We believed that he had been executed by the Russians. According to Penny Wong, the foreign minister for the Australian government, he is alive. So, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. The guy's alive. Now he's in the hands of the Russians. So you can imagine, as Penny Wong said, we still hold serious concerns for Mr. Jenkins, quote, end quote. And I bet they do. Australian officials stressed to Moscow that he is a prisoner of war, and they are obligated to treat him in accordance with international humanitarian law and the rules of war. When he gets out, we'll see just how much the Russians treated him the way that they're supposed to. But for right now, our hopes and thoughts are with Mr. Jenkins and his family and the people of Australia. Now, in terms of the Ukrainians not sitting still, not taking anything, and really getting out there, take a look at this video here. This is the Luke Oil refinery in Nizhny Novgorod. This is 4 out of 4 now. Luke Oil has 4 refineries. This refinery is Russia's 4th largest. And you can see massive, massive fires raging there last night after a Ukrainian drone strike. According to representatives of the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Directorate, that drone strike was 4 drones. They all hit their targets, according to the Ukrainians. According to Russian Governor Gleb Nikitin, he said that all drones were shot down. You knew that's what he was going to say. I said it last night on the live when somebody said that the refinery had been hit. I said for sure they're going to say that everything was shot down, but debris landed on the territory of the oil refinery, which is exactly what the Russian position was. According to the GUR, there was significant damage to the refinery. It sure as shit looks like it. Now, this, of course, is a drone, right? We talk about drones all the time. This sort of looks like a Shahed drone, but there's an amazing multiplicity of drones that are being evolved right now. The Russians send these every night, not necessarily to hit targets, but to cause damage to the people, to terrorize the people, or to exhaust air defense so missiles like the Iskander can get through and hit critical infrastructure targets. The Russian drones just took a real leap in terms of their cruelty and lack of compliance with international law, because they are now using fragmentation drones. So on civilian populated areas, they are sending these one-way drones loaded with metal splinters. I'm not sure that these balls are tungsten, but metal balls, right? So when the thing explodes, these go shooting out in all directions, and these will rip a person apart. Absolutely the kind of cluster style munition that is banned by 120 countries. And while the United States is not a signatory to that ban, neither is Ukraine, neither is Russia. We in the United States have, for the most part, retired these kinds of munitions because of the damage to civilian populations, right? You can't use something like this in a civilian area. Well, the Russians are now using them. This is a new version of the Shahed that's a fragmentation version. And we can expect to hear more about the kind of damage that these things do to people in the near term. The first official Russian delegation to Damascus since the fall of Bashar al-Assad arrived in Damascus today. This delegation is led by Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov, and includes Russia's special representative to Syria, Alexander Larentev. The purpose of this meeting is undisclosed, but we know very well what the purpose is. The purpose is for Russia to try to keep its claws inside of Syria. I don't think the Syrians are going to have anything to do with them. They've thrown them out of Tartus. The Sparta 1 and 2 Russian cargo ships were left circling in the Mediterranean Sea for weeks, through over 3 weeks, waiting for permission to come into port. And they didn't give it to them until they had officially canceled the Russian lease on the port. Then the cargo ships docked. It's not entirely clear why the Syrians or what the arrangement was, but the Syrians unloaded all of the brand new Chinese SUVs and pickup trucks that were on the one ship. The Russians then took all the crap that was on the dock away. So all of the Russian equipment that was in the port of Tartus, and I showed some satellite pictures of that equipment at one point, that's all gone. But one of those Russian cargo ships remains. It's not clear why. It also appears that the 2 warships that had been out in the Mediterranean just kind of circling pointlessly for a month have now returned to port in Tartus. Again, it's not clear why. Neither Damascus nor Moscow is saying very much about this meeting. For those who are interested, this screenshot here I took is of the Great Mosque of Damascus, the Umayyad Mosque. You can see the minaret there in the foreground and the star and crescent moon atop it, from where the call to prayer goes out 5 times a day, right, and has for 1,600 years now. So we will see what happens between the Russians and the Syrians. Though if I were the Russians, I wouldn't expect too much love from these longtime enemies who are now in charge. The EU is planning new sanctions against Russia. This includes a phased ban on purchases of Russian aluminum. Right now, the EU gets about 8% of its aluminum, about 275,000 metric tons a year, from the Russian Federation. And they want to phase out those purchases over the next 16, 18 months. Now, of course, this requires unanimous consent of everybody in the EU, and Viktor Orban is threatening to veto it. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with him. Now, we all know that on his first day in office, President Trump signed an executive order halting all U.S. foreign aid. This goes to the point that this administration is completely inept and corrupted. Already, a court has placed an injunction on this order. So this order can't even be carried out. It has thrown the entire State Department into such disarray that Marco Rubio had to say to everybody, wait, okay, we'll make an exception for programs that would result in starvation, that are critical medical needs, that people would die, right? That kind of thing. His statement was so vague and confusing that half the program folks don't know whether their programs are part of the exemption or not. It's insanity. And it's Project 2025. Make no mistake. The very evil that we talked about, the dismantling of the American federal government and the destruction, the absolute destruction of our leadership role in the world, and therefore our people, is underway and being carried out by traitors, loyal, like this piece of shit here, loyal only to their little copper-tone con man piece of shit. So look, nobody knows what's going to happen. Everybody's in a tither because none of it makes any sense unless you understand that Donald Trump is an enemy of the United States of America. He's not a patriot. He's a pickpocket. And he's here to pick your pocket, America. He is here to wreck all the influence in the world that you have. He's here to make you poor so that he feels richer, so that he's in a position to buy and sell people, which is the only thing he wants to be able to do. He certainly has no interest in you or what you're paying for eggs. And the incompetence of the people in his administration. Rubio could have drafted an exemption order that clarified who was still up and running and who was not. And instead, he did exactly what his boss does and just made vague statements where now nobody knows what the hell is going on. And people are going to die because of it. That's the reality. The world is once again laughing at us. Trump always says that. Trump says that the world is laughing at us when Biden was in charge. I'm out in the world. That's not the case. Biden restored Europe's faith in America. And in one day, Donald Trump undermined it all. And we are a laughing stock again. It's obscene. And we should be ashamed of ourselves. All right, that's it for me for the news that we are waking up to for Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, day 1071 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. I'm Peter Alexievich, and I'll see you in the live at